In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at a true crime story about who started the riots during the June 2025 Los Angeles protests. Stay tuned. On June 28, 2025, peaceful protests erupted in Los Angeles following the acquittal of a police officer in the shooting death of an unarmed man. The situation quickly spiraled out of control when a group of individuals known as the BPP, or Black Power Party, initiated a series of coordinated attacks on local businesses and the authorities. These violent acts resulted in the deaths of 2 people and several injuries, leading to a curfew being imposed by the city officials. But this was only the beginning of what was about to come. As night fell, the violence escalated dramatically, with groups of people setting fire to buildings, looting stores, and wreaking havoc across the city. In response to the chaos, the National Guard was deployed to restore order. But it soon became clear that the situation was far more complex than initially thought. As they worked to restore peace to the city, shocking discoveries were made about those responsible for the unrest. What had started as a protest soon became a full-blown riot, with people running rampant through the streets, destroying everything in their path. It seemed as though no one was safe from their wrath until authorities caught up with them and brought some semblance of justice back to the city. But who were these people behind the violence and destruction? Who could have orchestrated such mayhem, and why? Let's take a closer look at this terrifying true crime story. Before delving into the details of the case, it's important to understand the events that led up to it. On June 28, 2025, thousands of people gathered in Los Angeles to protest the acquittal of a white police officer. Just a few months prior, Pantaleo had been involved in a controversial shooting incident that left an unarmed black man dead. Despite overwhelming evidence of the man's innocence, Pantaleo claimed self-defense and was acquitted by a jury. This verdict sparked outrage among the black community, who felt that justice had not been served. Protests quickly turned violent as groups of people began targeting local businesses and law enforcement officers. Amidst the chaos, a new threat emerged: the Black Power Party, also known as the BPP, led by a charismatic but dangerous individual named Stanley Williams. The BPP was a radical political organization dedicated to the violent overthrow of the government and the establishment of black supremacy. Williams, a former gang member with a history of violence, saw the unrest as an opportunity to advance his own agenda and seize the moment. Using social media platforms, he rallied his followers to join him in a series of coordinated attacks on the police and the city's infrastructure. The first attack occurred in the early hours of June 29, when a group of BPP members armed with Molotov cocktails and other makeshift weapons targeted a police station in South Los Angeles. The group, numbering around 50 individuals, descended on the building, chanting slogans such as "Death to all pigs" and "Burn it down." While the police were able to defend themselves against the initial attack, they were soon overwhelmed by the sheer number of assailants. As more and more people joined in on the violence, the situation quickly spiraled out of control. In the midst of the chaos, 2 people lost their lives. A young woman standing outside a convenience store was caught in the crossfire between the police and the rioters and was fatally shot. Meanwhile, a BPP member was killed when police officers responded with force to protect a local business from being looted. With the situation rapidly deteriorating, the city's mayor declared a curfew in an attempt to restore order and prevent further violence. However, this only served to enrage the rioters, who saw it as an infringement on their right to protest. As darkness fell over Los Angeles, the violence escalated even further. Groups of people armed with baseball bats and metal pipes attacked anyone who dared to venture outside. They smashed windows, overturned cars, and set fire to buildings, causing millions of dollars in damage. The police were struggling to contain the situation, and it seemed as though the city was descending into anarchy. In response to the growing crisis, the governor activated the National Guard to help restore order and protect the lives and property of the citizens. However, even their presence did little to stop the rampaging crowds. With the city in ruins, it became clear that something had to be done to bring the situation under control. The authorities realized that they were dealing with a highly organized group of individuals who had planned the attacks in advance and were prepared to resist arrest. As the National Guard worked to restore order, a small team of detectives was assembled to investigate the origins of the riot. Their task was daunting, but the stakes were high. If they could identify the mastermind behind the violence, they might be able to prevent future incidents from occurring. Through painstaking investigation, they uncovered evidence that pointed to the BPP and its leader, Stanley Williams. Williams, a former gang member with a history of violence, had used the acquittal of Daniel Pantaleo as an excuse to incite a riot and seize control of the city. He had recruited members of various street gangs and radical political groups, promising them power and glory if they joined him in his cause. With this knowledge, the authorities were able to develop a plan to dismantle the BPP and bring its members to justice. The operation was risky, but ultimately successful. Dozens of BPP members were arrested and charged with inciting violence and looting. Stanley Williams himself was taken into custody after a 3-day manhunt, during which time he had evaded the authorities by hiding in the homes of sympathizers. In the aftermath of the riot, the city of Los Angeles was left to pick up the pieces. Businesses were destroyed, homes were burned, and the community was traumatized. But amidst the devastation, there was hope. The authorities had prevailed against the forces of chaos, and the city was slowly able to rebuild itself. The true crime story of the June 2025 Los Angeles riots is a reminder of the destructive power of hate and the importance of seeking justice through peaceful means. It also highlights the bravery of the law enforcement officers and National Guard members who put their lives on the line to protect the citizens of Los Angeles during a time of unprecedented violence and destruction. The mastermind behind the riot, Stanley Williams, was ultimately brought to justice, but not before leaving a lasting impact on the city and its residents. His actions serve as a cautionary tale of the dangers of extremism and the importance of tolerance and understanding in our society. One of the most significant aspects of this case was the use of social media by the BPP to organize and incite violence. Williams and his followers used various platforms to spread their message and recruit new members, taking advantage of the anonymity and reach offered by the internet. This aspect of the case highlights the evolving nature of modern-day crime and the need for law enforcement agencies to adapt their strategies to combat it. Another interesting aspect of the case was the diverse group of individuals who participated in the riots. Members of various street gangs and radical political groups came together under the banner of the BP, setting aside their differences to pursue a common goal of violence and destruction. This demonstrates the power of groupthink and the influence of charismatic leaders like Stanley Williams. Despite the tragic loss of life and the extensive damage to property, there were also glimmers of hope during this tumultuous time. Ordinary citizens came together to help their neighbors and support local businesses. Acts of kindness and compassion emerged amidst the chaos, reminding us of the resilience and generosity of the human spirit. In conclusion, the June 2025 Los Angeles protests and subsequent riots were a dark chapter in the city's history. The violence and destruction caused by the BPP and its leader Stanley Williams serve as a reminder of the destructive power of hate and extremism. However, the bravery displayed by law enforcement officers and National Guard members, as well as the acts of kindness and compassion shown by ordinary citizens, offer a glimmer of hope and remind us of the importance of unity, understanding, and overcoming adversity. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out the next one. Thanks for watching.